Dream F1 is back, and of course it is back with major news ahead of the Japanese Grand Prix. Our main story ahead of today's race is the announcement that Honda will be rejoining as a manufacturer from 2023 onwards, as they bought the AlphaTauri entry as announced ahead of the previous race. That leaves Red Bull disgruntled, as they feel that is a massive backstep from what was their successful engine supplier last season. Honda, however, stated Red Bull happily received their money for the AlphaTauri team to develop their own engine, so in the end everybody would win, especially the fans. Honda already announced their drivers for next season, which will be an all-Japanese lineup with Yuki Tsunoda and Kamui Kobayashi, who makes the switch from STV Racing to the Japanese manufacturer. That leaves an open seat at STV for the next season, while Pierre Gasly needs to look for a different team. Now, for a change, let's not talk about next season, but stay with the current one. Mercedes and George Russell especially have thrown their head back into the ring considering both championships. While Mercedes, surprisingly and thanks to their consistency, has been leading the Constructors' Championship all season, they were falling behind in the Drivers' Championship. With a very strong race for both drivers in Monza and a second win for Russell, their ambitions are as high as ever. Lewis Hamilton is still standing mathematical chances to win the championship, but he looks unlikely to challenge for the crown. Unfortunate strategy with the many safety cars in the last race might have cost him a shot at the record-breaking 8th championship. Talking about people bouncing back, Mick Schumacher finally scored the first points of his season in Monza, finishing an impressive 7th. Haas' best finish this year so far. However, he feels that still his performance is not being recognized, as Magnussen has been confirmed for next season, while he not only is still being left in doubt over his future at the team management even criticized his latest result, questioning why he didn't finish higher, as 6th would have been possible for the German. Mick, for the second time this season, publicly went after the team that he doesn't feel supports him enough, despite now even overtaking his teammate in the championship. After his latest result, he might have become another hot property at the drivers' market for next season. After the last races at Spa and Monza were absolutely spectacular, we should be in for another treat today, as we're visiting another classic venue for the Japanese Grand Prix, and to add to that, it is raining once again. We're going to go racing at the Suzuka International Racing Course, the only 8-shaped circuit on the season's calendar. Its 5.8 kilometers have seen some spectacular moments in the past. Like in Monza, we expect 26 absolutely action-packed laps today. And here is, as usual, our fastest lap from qualifying yesterday. And here is the starting grid for today's race. Charles Leclerc once again on pole position, Max Verstappen, his main championship rival, starts alongside him in second. And then we have Hamilton, Sainz, Russell, Perez, Alonso, best of the rest in 7th, Lando Norris starts from P8, Hülkenberg from 9th, Daniel Ricciardo in 10th, Esteban Ocon from P11, then ourselves, our lap was good enough for 12th, and then behind us we have Sebastian Vettel, Valtteri Bottas, Pierre Gasly, Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda, Magnussen, De Vries, Joe, Schumacher, Albon, Kobayashi, unfortunately only 23rd for teammates, and once again in 24th and last is Nicholas Latifi. And here we are now in our grid position from P12. The heavens have opened and the lights are green here at Suzuka. We're on the way for the Japanese Grand Prix, and we get a little bit of wheel spinning aquaplaning off the line, and we lose a couple of spots. Oh, making a bit of contact there with, I believe that is Zhou Guan Yu behind us. Indeed it is. We've already lost 3 places there. Now through the S's. Oh, look at that spray from the cars ahead. Hard to see where you're actually going, and especially hard to see the track and how wet it is at which point of the track, and there is no chance as we got overtaken by another AlphaTauri. That is the second Alfa Romeo that made it past now, down in 18th already, only in the first lap, so we're really struggling with these conditions. And the bad news for us is, as we just managed to stay ahead of the Haas of Mick Schumacher, well, and as I was saying, the bad news for us is the weather won't change. It will rain throughout the race, and track conditions, well, we can hope, of course, that the cars running here will form a drier line at some point during that race, because, well, 24 cars going around that track might be able to put some of that water away. But for now we have to deal with an absolutely soaked track, and this is the Williams of Nicholas Latifi that now passes. We started from P12, and now at the end of lap 1 we are down in P20. Now, after our season went very well from Canada onwards, with of course the exception of that tire blowout in Silverstone, this race seems to be a very different cup of tea. We are up into 19th. Pierre Gasly made it into the pit lane. Something must have happened to him on that opening lap. Probably damage to the front wing or something. As we're now going through the S's once again, and you can really hear it. You can't step on the throttle. You need to be very careful with it when applying the throttle, because you get wheel spin so easily. The aquaplaning is so strong, especially on some parts of the track. Now this is of course also tricky under the bridge, where, well, obviously there is no rain. All of a sudden you have lots of grip, and then as soon as you leave it, no grip whatsoever. Now we are close to Nicholas Latifi. Maybe we can start moving our way up from here. And yeah, what is also an issue, you can see it on our steering wheel, is that somehow the battery chargement doesn't work too great either here on this track, because despite me running on a balanced setting, the battery is almost empty. So we will have to turn down that in a second, and well, this is not a good spot to do that, of course, because this is the longest flat out bit off the track ahead of 130R. The other Williams of Albon moves past. This is now De Vries in the Porsche. Break past De Vries for now, and we stay ahead out of the final chicane. Down towards the finish line, into lap 3 we go. We are still in 20th. Defending the inside, but look at the speed differential And now, of course, our battery isn't putting out too much energy either, because, well, it is almost empty, as I said. Oh, now behind us is just, now, Mick Schumacher, I was about to say, but now he passed us, and it's just our teammate Kobayashi now. We push him out of road, which we didn't want to do, and then we have half a spin on the grass, and now we're pretty much last, apart, of course, from Pierre Gasly, who already was in the pit lane. But now let's look at the different end of the grid, and this is the race start for our championship contenders. Leclerc gets away pretty well, and he is the first one to turn into the first corner, and Verstappen loses position to Hamilton and to Carlos Sainz, who I suppose has done a major corner cut into turn 1. Race Direction have not yet asked him to give back that position, but Verstappen already here through the S's, trying to move past the Spaniard. That, of course, is now a big help for Charles Leclerc, who might be able to retake the championship lead from Verstappen. Verstappen took it in Spa, extended it a little bit at Monza last time out, only in the final lap. And now it looks like the pendulum swings rather towards Charles Leclerc here once again, at least after that race start. And Leclerc already able to pull away somewhat. Hamilton in second, Sainz third, Verstappen fourth. Behind him, that is George Russell. George Russell might also want to try to push ahead. Or, well, Russell needs very good results like he did scored in Monza. Another race win would certainly put him back into the championship fight ahead of the 2 last rounds of the championship after this race. Oh, Verstappen really all over the back of Carlos Sainz, but he does not find a way past right now. Out of the final corner, maybe now with the slipstream on towards turn 1. No, he's not close enough. He's showing himself, but no chance for him to move past the Ferrari. Now Sainz looks like he wants to attack Lewis Hamilton in P2. But, well, as I said, that all helps Charles Leclerc, who is already pulling away majorly, as Verstappen still desperately trying to find a way past that Ferrari back into the race. Now Hamilton also pulling a bit away from the Ferrari. And look how bad the spray and how bad the vision for the drivers must be when we get, of course, back on board with ourselves. You will see how bad the vision is, but you can't even make out the cars behind these wall of spray. So absolutely torrential conditions in which to race here. Now through Spoon, Verstappen tries to find a bit of space alongside Sainz, and he found that space. Now towards 130R we go. They're side by side running to that ultra fast left-hander, and it looks very good for Verstappen as he has the inside line. There is a bit of wheel banging, but Verstappen retakes third and is back on the podium for now. In the background, Russell tries to get involved in that situation as well. Sainz tried to counter that into the final chicane, but he's not able to do so. And Verstappen now back in P3 at the start of lap 3. And now back to ourselves. It's already lap 10. We don't expect any pit stops so far. You can see this track is still absolutely wet, so yeah, no change in terms of that. Rain's still going strong, so I have the feeling that the track is rather getting wetter as we lose our car on the curb there, and heavy impact into the wall rearwards. That would have hurt if it was not in a pretend racing car. Let's see what's happened here from the outside. Yeah, just losing it a little bit, overcorrecting, or well, not being able to correct that slide, and rearwards into the wall we go, and this is us out of that race. But let's be honest, not a major loss, because I don't think we would have pulled anything off there today, as we were super slow. Now you can see how crooked the car is as well. Yeah, nothing really working, and now we're just searching for a safe spot to retire the car, to not cause any safety car, which we find just the escape road here. So we retired our car in lap 10, and well, that gives us a little bit of the opportunity to watch what our teammate is doing. We haven't seen much of him this year. It was not the most promising year from Kobayashi. He came close to scoring points in Silverstone, of course, but since then, well, nothing really has worked too well for the experienced Japanese racing driver. He was also lacking a bit of luck this season, as he's now battling both Williams for P20, and you can see he could go a lot quicker. Now he's trying to get alongside Albon. Doesn't find a way to do that though. So yeah, he's kind of stuck here. Surprisingly eventless race, considering these conditions. We are still the only retirement in lap 15. They're all keeping it together, and they're all keeping it clean, as now Kobayashi is alongside Albon. But Albon manages to stay ahead of Spoon Corner. This is not really where you can make a move. You can prepare one for the following straight though, just as we've seen from Max Verstappen earlier on. Kobayashi not able to move alongside Albon though. But now the chicane, probably the circuit's best overtaking spot that is coming up here. He tries it, he has a look down the inside. But through the second part of the chicane, Albon with the better line, and he stays ahead of Kobayashi for another lap as they now begin lap 16. And sadly, this is also the most interesting battle that is happening right now. At the top, they're all pretty much separated, all in their own race. So no changes there. If that happens, of course, I will show you. But now let's watch and support our teammate a little bit. Yeah, he's almost pushing these two Williams around the track. I'm actually wondering why they haven't considered to let Albon pass Latifi. Because, well, Albon also seems like being able to go faster than the Canadian. That most likely is without a seat for next season. Oh, and now into Spoon. Oh, Albon tries the wide line. Kobayashi then does the switchback down the inside. And finally, he moves past Albon. The Thai driver still very close to the back of Kobayashi. So he has to defend now through Spoon. Up the bridge now. Well, and we fast forward a little bit as Kobayashi managed to get a little bit of space between himself and Albon, as he's now setting after the second Williams of Nicholas Latifi. He's still stuck in that Williams sandwich. And of course, I doubt that anything is still possible here today. Because, well, the race is still pretty eventless. Despite these conditions, look at the spray there. Ah, Kobayashi now alongside Latifi. Maybe he is able to pull it off now, but Latifi now with the outside line has the better exit, of course, and then he has the inside for the next corner. Almost pushes Kobayashi out of road, and he stays ahead. Kobayashi not giving in yet, but no chance. And of course, you also need to be very, very careful. You were able to see it when we retired. We just caught a little bit too much of the curb there on the inside, had a little bit of a moment, tried to correct it, and then lost the car entirely on the wet track. So yeah, I think most of the drivers are taking that very cautious approach to focus on not crashing, not spinning, and yeah, that has worked for them. But of course, for us as a spectator, that is not what you want to see. Now, you don't want to see lots of crashes either, but a little bit more action, people trying to make moves. But yeah, this is not really happening here, and of course, in the wet, DRS is also disabled, so you won't even be able to open the rear wing when you're inside the 1 second window of the car ahead, as Albon has a little look down the inside, but Kobayashi now with a better line through the second half of the chicane. And yeah, he stays ahead. Now he looks pretty close to Latifi. Down the main straight we go. He pulls out of the spray that Latifi produces. Oh, he is alongside once again, but he's not far enough alongside, because now Latifi will get the better exit. Oh, this time Kobayashi was still there, so he didn't push him out of road, but still Latifi stays ahead of Kobayashi. He's doing a good job here defending Nicholas Latifi. You have to give him that. Oh, now Kobayashi running a little wide. That might give Albon the chance, but no, Albon backed out of it already. Yeah, round the outside of Degner, it's not possible to make a move there. Gasly in the background in 23rd. He's still recovering from his very, very early pit stop in lap 1. Of course, I think this goes without saying, no one else has made a pit stop, because in the wet you're not obliged to use 2 different compounds. Actually, you're not obliged to do that in Dream F1 at all. All you need to do is a pit stop in dry conditions, not in these wet conditions though. There is no mandatory pit stop today, because, well, there is no strategy available. Of course you're going for the full wets here in these conditions, so you don't even have the choice of extending once and trying something else. So yeah, no mandatory pit stop here as we enter lap 25. And Kobayashi once again. Oh, now he's trying it later. This might... No, it does not work at all. Latifi stays in 20th, and he's holding up more and more cars with Gasly approaching. But as I said, he's doing a fine job defending. There is no proper chance for Kobayashi to make a move. I think the best chance still is the hairpin, if he can get on the right side of Latifi. Right, not meaning the direction, but the choice of options. If that makes sense, probably not. Kobayashi now through said hairpin. Oh, and now he rather has to take care that Albon doesn't retake the position, just like Kobayashi did. About 10 laps to go, but now he does not. And we now switch to Charles Leclerc, who is already on the final lap here. Look at that rain. It is torrential rain here in Suzuka. And while that must have not been the most interesting race to watch, it certainly was a super impressive drive by the Monegasque driver. Despite these conditions, he has not put a single foot wrong. He was the fastest driver the entire day, unchallenged. He goes through the final chicane for the final time to come around the final corner to win the Japanese Grand Prix 2022, and with it retake the championship lead. Charles Leclerc wins in Suzuka. And here are the full results today. Leclerc also has taken the fastest lap with him, 8.6 seconds out of Lewis Hamilton. Further 1.5-ish seconds is Max Verstappen, who completes the podium. Then we have Sainz in 4th, Russell 5th, then Perez, Norris best of the rest, Nico Hülkenberg finishes 8th, Fernando Alonso then in 9th, and Esteban Ocon in 10th. So another double points finish for Alpine. Sebastian Vettel, tough luck, he finishes 11th, Daniel Ricciardo 12th. And then we have Stroll, Bottas, Tsunoda, De Vries, Joe Magnussen, Schumacher, the two Haas drivers finishing together. And for the Drivers' Championship, I already briefly mentioned it, Charles Leclerc has retaken the lead of the championship, and it is a very, very slim lead. He's just 2 points out of Max Verstappen with only 2 races to go. Then we have George Russell still with mathematical chances, but this race today has cost him in his ambitions for first driver's title. Then Lewis Hamilton, also mathematical chances, but pretty much only mathematical chances for Lewis. Carlos Sainz, he's out of the championship fight already. And then we have Alonso still ahead of Perez, though Perez moves closer. Will also be interesting how Red Bull handles that. Esteban Ocon in 8th. Then Norris 9th, Hülkenberg 10th, we are still in 11th, Ricciardo 12th, and then no changes whatsoever on the second page of the results because, well, no one on this page has got any points today, so they remain as they were. And now let's also look at the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes still in the lead, 19 points ahead of Ferrari, so everything in that fight as well. Red Bull Racing kind of suffering from Perez's poor season, only in 3rd. Alpine 4th, still on a comfortable gap. I don't think they can be catched by the rest. Then we have McLaren, Porsche, Aston Martin, and then a very interesting battle between STV Racing, Haas and AlphaTauri, who only have 1 point between them. So the next point finish for any of those could decide who finishes in 8th, 9th or 10th respectively. And then we have Alfa Romeo in 11th, and Williams still living on that 1 point scored in a chaotic Monaco Grand Prix by Nicolas Latifi. And well, that has been it for round 10 of the Dream F1 season 2022. Next up, for the final 2 races, we will be heading to South America. Well, and all that's left for me now is to say, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to not miss anything happening on this channel, and I hope to see you all for the next episode in Argentina. Until then, goodbye.